Mag of Cascadia tuning in for another episode of my journal. Hope you guys are all doing well. My family's been kind of under the weather. Have what they call hand, foot, and mouth virus or disease or something. It's just a strange virus. You get like chickenpox like, dots on your hands and your feet and in your mouth and stuff, and you have a low fever and pretty mild. It can get bad, but it's been really mild. Um, so yeah. So me, my wife, and my daughter have all been kind of under the weather. But farm duties never take a day off, so I'm out here working. And I was just listening to the Fight Back podcast with Jake Shields and Thomas Rousseau, who is the leader of Patriot Front. It's a nationalist movement nationalist organization in the United States. I recommend that if you are somewhat interested in nationalism or the future of the United States, that you should check out this group, Patriot Front. I've been really considering joining for a while now, so I need to look into that and check that out. Also, I've been hearing that the same kind of group that started the Return to the Land movement in Ozarkia, the all-white community, apparently they are doing the same in Washington State, in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm like, oh man, I gotta check that out. It would be way nicer to move a couple hours away rather than, all the way across the country, So I want to check that out. I'm pretty white-pilled about that, pretty excited about that. But what I wanted to come on here and say, which was just rattling around in my brain as I was working, is the question of why, if you're in these circles and in these movements, you have the National Socialist Network, NSN, in Australia with Thomas Rousseau and Joel Davis, Blair Cottrell, and Jacob Persant. They have been a total inspiration to me for a while now. Just brilliant guys that created this amazing model and are fighting back in Australia against the hostile takeover of third worlders and their corrupt government. And but the NSN, the National Socialist Network, Patriot Front in the United States, you have Blood Tribe, which I think is super cool. More like edgy nationalist movement, national socialist movement in the United States. His name is Christopher Allen Polehouse is his name. He goes by Hammer. He has Odin's name tattooed on his face in runes, which is fucking badass. But anyways, out of all these nationalist movements, whenever they do their public demonstrations and their marches, they always cover their face. They wear masks. And the most, frequent question you have by just the average normie is, why are they covering their faces? Why are they doing that? Are they cowards? Are they scared of what they believe in? And they're just they're cowards. They're not willing to show their face, but they're gonna have these views and do these marches and stuff. Like, you just look like a criminal. You look like Antifa. Blah 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 blah. And it's got to be the most frustrating question that people ask when it comes to this kind of stuff. Why the anonymity? Why are people trying to be anonymous in these nationalist movements? And I understand why the average person, the average normie, would ask this question. I totally get it, but it's really frustrating because it just goes to show how ignorant they are of the situation that we are in as Europeans, as white Americans, as white Australians or white Canadians or white any white people anywhere. it just goes to show how out of the loop most people are, with the climate of all of these, all this stuff that's going on. And I was thinking back, I'm like, why is this so frustrating for me? Why is it so obvious to me? And then I started thinking about my life and how I grew up and everything. And I remember being in, it was 2017, I think. I think it was 2017. And I was at I was in a university course, and I wrote on the whiteboard in my classroom, I wrote, "It's okay to be white." Um, and I was kicked out of class for it. I was totally reprimanded by the school, and I was called a Nazi, a white supremacist, a racist, and I was kicked out effectively of class. No one would be my partner and everything, so I just left. I quit. That was the last day. I quit school. And so I've been aware of the political climate and what is really happening in the West for a long time. And even years before that, I remember being, in 2015, graduating high school, and I remember watching I think there's a couple that there's like Europa, The Last Battle, and there was a couple other ones, but I believe the one that I watched, it was like a super long documentary. It was really well done. It was like 5 or 6 hours long or something, and it was called The Greatest Story Never Told. And it was a really comprehensive, in-depth history of World War One and World War Two, and then also the life story of Adolf Hitler. And so fast forward, it's 2025. And so I've been privy to all this information for a decade. And so even back then, I kind of was, quote unquote, red pilled and kind of had the wool ripped off from my eyes. And I started to really understand that we live in a totally anti-white society. And what do I mean by that? Because most people, what are you talking about? White people are thriving. I got good friends. I make good money. I went to school. I'm successful, and I go to all white church. And what do you mean anti-white? That's just silly. Our president is white. Our president is Trump, and just all this nonsense. And what I mean by that is that when I say anti-white, I mean that every other ethnic group within our nations can collectivize, organize, vote, act with discrimination, and have in-group preference. All other peoples. And in fact, a lot of these groups get huge lumps of money, taxpayer money, given to them by the government. Okay? But if you were a white person and you collectivize within our borders and you say, I'm pro-white, I'm pro anything our people, our folk, we have, we have group interests. We have collective interests as a group. And we're going to politically organize for that. If you do that in any Western nation, you are heavily persecuted. You will be kicked out of school. You'll be fired from your job. You'll be kicked out of your church. Your family will ostracize you. You'll be kicked off social media. The list goes on. You're absolutely 100% persecuted. So that's why it's so frustrating when people ask this question of, well, why are they covering their faces? They look like Antifa. Well, it just goes to show how out of the loop most people are about really what's going on in the West. Is we have governments that are actively replacing us with the third world. They are making it illegal for us to collectivize within our borders. It's been happening for a long time. And like the forced segregation in the United States, they literally forced white Americans at gunpoint to desegregate. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I know it's painfully obvious for the people in our circles, but there is still a huge portion of the population that doesn't really understand this, and they haven't seen it. But it's like the Matrix, you know what I mean? It's like when all of a sudden you're given this information and you start looking around, you realize how quickly we are a absolutely persecuted class of people that is not allowed to have an identity, that's not allowed to vote for ourselves, help each other out, all of this stuff. And yeah, that's why these people in these nationalist movements cover their faces, because they are under threat of getting their bank accounts shut down. Do you think that's crazy? It's not. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. Whenever I get the chance to talk to people, I'll drop little nuggets of information, here and there. Like the other day, I can't remember who I was talking to. It was some boomer I was talking to, and I said, "Oh yeah, there's literally thousands of people in the United Kingdom that are in jail for posts, for Facebook posts and Twitter posts." And they go, "What? Really? No, really? Like that? No, there's thousands of people. There's grannies that are in jail right now because they posted something anti-Islam on Facebook." So here in America, it's a little bit different because we have freedom of speech still, somewhat, and our nation is just totally different. I've been really following the NSN guys in Australia for a while, and they have I think the land mass of Australia is larger than the United States, but they have a tenth of the population that we do, a tenth. So it's everything is a little different. Same with England and Ireland. They're tiny islands with a totally different political climate, political structure, and the whole deal. So it all looks different everywhere you go, but it's the same thing that's happening. Our treacherous government has opened the borders. They are letting in millions of foreigners, and they are subsidized by the government. It's like in one of my earlier videos, I was talking about how the little convenience store down the street from where not really down the street, but it's the closest convenience store to where I live, was just bought by Indians. But people don't understand that the reason why all these convenience stores are owned by Indians is because the government gives them special grants. They give them a special loan of 200 something grand, no interest, nothing at all, so that they can start businesses. So until the normie wakes up and realizes that our government hates us and they are trying to replace us, until people realize that the white man is paying for our own genocide. The government is literally sticking us up, taxing us to oblivion, taking that money and then giving it to third world hostile foreigners who are coming here by the millions unvetted so that they can resettle our lands, outbreed us, intermix with us, and then by 100 years, if nothing changes right now, people don't understand this. It's so wild to me that you have to grab people and shake them, and they still won't understand that if the immigration rate doesn't change in the Western world, say it just keeps on going. Like for example, Australia, I think they're taking in like 500,000 new immigrants every year or something, which is just absolutely insane for such a small population. I mean, it's a total replacement immigration plan. I mean, that's insane. The U.S. is bad too. I mean, but if these rates don't change within, in 20 years, when my daughter is my age, she will be an absolute minority in every city in the entire United States. Do people not understand this? Do you guys not get that freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, all of these integral parts about what it is to be an American, they're all gone when we become a minority. All of it. America won't be this. It won't be America. It'll be called something. They'll probably call it something else. So, if you're a young man and you're hearing this, you need to join a nationalist movement, and you need to fight to preserve our people. We have no other choice, and You got to get over the silly buzzwords that people are going to call you. They're going to call you racist and call you this and that, and you got to get over it. You either get called a racist by some foreigner, or your nation gets completely invaded and taken from you, and you have no future for your children. So it's up to you, white man. Hail the gods, hail our folk. White men, fight back.